work for a company called Premier Oilfield Group as a lead geomodeller, but I'm currently doing a Global Executive MBA at IESE Business School in Spain, Barcelona. And my background is I'm a geologist. I have a bachelor's degree in geology. I also have from University of Port Harcourt, Nigeria, and a master's degree in Petroleum Geoscience from Royal Holloway, University of London, and graduating from my Executive MBA next month from IESE Business School, Spain, Barcelona. I have 19 years of experience in the oil and gas industry, and which is highly technical. And I would say out of that 19 years of experience, probably 12 to 13 years of that has been geomodeling, and it's, as you know, it's really technical. And after a while, especially during the COVID period, when people started reflecting about their life and what you need to do, what next, what step, I decided I needed to know more about, the business, as a geologist or as a geomodeler, right? You only strictly focus on the technical roles and technical work that you do, but sometimes, I'll speak for myself, I can't speak for the other geologists, but sometimes we don't really consider, okay, why are we doing this? What is the underlying business reasons we're doing what we're doing? What is the strategic perspective of this? So I wanted to add that to my portfolio, and I decided I need to go do an MBA. And also I've started thinking and considering going into more leadership roles and less technical roles. So for me, this is like a transition pathway to move into maybe a different industry, or within the same industry, oil and gas, into more a leadership role, management role, and more strategic and business development role. Okay, so as a Nigerian, or as I'll say more, I want to say African, but obviously Africa is big as a continent. So as a Nigerian, and most people that know Nigerian families, is when you're growing up, your parents always tell you, this is what you're going to be when you grow up. They kind of like detect you, this is who you will be. You have nothing, you have no input, unless some parents are really, fine. But as a Nigerian parent and a Nigerian child, you have to be either an engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, or an accountant, nothing else. So I remember when we had this conversation with my dad, we're like, hey, Dad, what do you think we'll be when we grow up? And he spoke to my brother. He said, you're going to be an engineer. I think one of my sisters was going to be a medical doctor. Another one, he said nurse. So we're laughing at her, And then when he came to me, he said, you're going to be in the oil industry. And I started crying, because for me, I didn't really know. We're quite young, maybe in primary school, like maybe 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. So what I identified with oil industry is like we have lots of palm trees. And from my tribe, we do have land with palm trees, so we do our own palm oil, is equivalent to like a vegetable oil or olive oil. And there's a guy from the village that normally goes up to get the palm fruits and harvest them. So I thought that was what he wanted me to do. I started crying like that. I don't want to be in the palm oil business. And I said, no, that's not what I mean. It's going to be like real. I will never forget this story ever. So you're going to be in the oil and gas industry. So that's what I mean. Is you're not going to be an engineer, but something in alignment with that, So for me, that thought, stayed with me as I grew up, And then a friend's dad was a geologist, and he used to work for one of the universities there. And I knew that he traveled a lot. He used to go to a lot of field trips. He used to work for Shell also as a part-time. So that's where my interest came in. And also with geology, it has to do with traveling. It has to do with going to the field, So and outdoors. So those are the things I really identified with geology that I loved, and that's why I actually went into the geology field. And I would say what I would advise to people that are coming into the field is like, especially when you're considering STEM. STEM is really broad. It really is versatile. STEM means, obviously we all know what it means: science, technology, engineering, and maths. And with the current day and age, you need to think wisely. As in STEM, what do you want to study? Don't just go with the flow of, oh, I'm going to go because this is the name of the company, or figure out what course do you want to do that is versatile, that is broad, and not really specific. Because when something happens, you want to be able to transition either into different industries, or can move from one role to the other. But once you're specific, then you get stuck. Don't also think about, okay, this is the hot cake right now. This is what is currently raining. It could be currently raining now, but in the future, that hot cake could be a still cake. So try to be as versatile as you can be so that you can spread your tentacles when something really happens. So think wisely, really, when you're choosing your course. Don't just go with the flow, really. Yeah. So for me, I started off broadly, and then towards my mid-career, or just slightly before my mid-career, I then became very specific or specialized. So I started offshore as a mud logger. So that's how I started my oil and gas industry. Obviously, I was picking samples, watching samples, and describing. And then once I was tired of working offshore, I did that for about 3 to 4 years. Then I got hired. I also worked as an operations geologist. So I went into the office and I was then sending well sites to the rigs and also supervising and all that stuff. And then I really wanted to work. I wanted to leave the offshore scene because in the North it's mostly offshore, not onshore. I wanted to work in the office, and I got hired as a lead geoscientist. But my first role outside the rig was as a petrophysicist. So I worked as a petrophysicist for a year, but I really wanted to work as a geologist, and then I wanted to start working as a geomodeller. So I then changed department and started working as a geologist and then building 3D reservoir models. But at that stage, because I didn't really have the experience, so it's more like updating, reviewing, putting in well logs and well planning. And then I really wanted to specialize in that, and I joined a company, which was a Norwegian company, which actually created petrol before they sold it to Schlumberger. And that's when I then started specializing in 3D geological modeling. And since then, I have been a geomodeler for almost, like I said, 12 years now. And I think that's what has now kept me in a box, because I've done that for the longest, So sometimes if I want to move, let's say if I just want to go work as a production geologist or development geologist, they're like, okay, you have more of geomodeling, and so that's why now that I want to transition out, and it's something else that I can kind of soften my technical skills to make me then branch elsewhere. I've never worked here in the US, but I know it's different. So, but from in the North Sea in the UK. At first, I didn't know what to expect, right? So when I went to the rig, sometimes I can be the only woman. For sure, I'm usually the only Black person there, right? But the thing is that the guys there were really nice. They really wanted to. So if you're lost on the platform, they want to help you. Sometimes if I'm carrying my base mod, or oil base mod to clean the mods, they'll help me carry it out. So that was like the pros of it, that they were really, really helpful. But sometimes, you can get, once in a while when you have people coming around that you just want to walk and you just don't want to chat, things like that, But overall, and then there were some platforms that you'll be on, and this is not just specific just to me being like a Black woman. Just generally, they were opposed to having women on board, but they were opposed to having women on board because they didn't have a lot of accommodation space. So they rather have men that could share rooms, because if a woman is coming on board, then you're entitled to just a full room with a bunk bed, and they just didn't want that. So sometimes upfront they say, no, we don't want women, and sometimes it's really off-putting. And again, another thing that was challenging for me is, when I was working as a well site geologist, obviously you have to call your reservoir tops, depths. You have to call TD. You have to, most times some company men, rarely, but once in a while, you could go for the morning meetings and you'd be like, okay, you guys, please, we want you to slow down the drilling rate, because we're getting close to the reservoir, and they don't listen to you. Or sometimes they don't have the eye contact with you. And they even, when you speak, it's like crickets, like no one is listening to you, and they turn over and speak to other people, So those are the challenges that I face, where people do not listen, or sometimes they shut you down. They'll be like, especially when we've not, okay, a good example. If from the prognosis we say we're going to get to the reservoir top at maybe 13,000, and we're at 14,000 and we're still not there, because they're always because they want to stop drilling fast. Well, he said it was going to be 10,000, we're not there yet. So what's going on? You geologists, drillers and geologists, they were like, look, sometimes this is not right. It's not like straight and white, black or white, Maybe we've missed the reservoir, maybe the reservoir is not there, maybe it's faulted out. So we keep on drilling until I tell you to stop, So those are the challenges where you're talking to someone that's well experienced. And then as a young Black woman geologist, they look at you like you don't even know what you're doing. So those are some of the challenges. But overall, it was a good experience. I learned a lot. So.